Good morning, guys, here in Las Vegas, and today we have a very interesting video. We're meeting up with some old school locals here, one being Oscar Goodman. And if you've seen the movie Casino, you've seen Oscar. He played himself, who is the attorney in the movie. Oscar has been an attorney for some of the biggest names in organized crime in the city and the country. Also the mayor for many years. And then his buddy, Michael Schneider, 16 years in the Nevada State Senate. Today's video is going to be highly unfiltered. These are the type of guys that speak their minds, know the inside stories, understand Vegas inside and out. And the goal is to get some content here that you might not be able to see anywhere else. All right, guys, let's do this.
They had just written this book, the Over the Maris book. I have it up there, the Greenfeld Jungle. That one, that library, the
right
one I stole from the library. Yeah, sure. And I didn't steal it from the library, of course. It was a tawdry version of what Las Vegas was, the Sin City aspect of it. And as a young lawyer, I was just looking to make $1, to be quite frank with you. We came out with $87 between us, my wife and myself. And we came over a hill out near Boulder City, and we looked out, and we saw a couple of twinkling lights in the desert there. I don't think we saw a building taller than 2 stories high, and a tumbleweed ran in front of the car, and I hadn't seen a tumbleweed since a cowboy movie that I'd seen back in Philadelphia. And I think there were 70,000 people living in Las Vegas at the time, and maybe 100,000 in the whole Clark County.
What year was that?
1964.
How old are you?
Now 83. We were babies. We left our families back there, and that was tough. But if I was ever going to do it, it's going to be then, or else, unlike you, who's a world traveler, pretty sedentary guy, I sort of stay in place and get happy with what I'm doing and don't look for other adventures. I had a job waiting for me in the DA's office here as a law clerk because they only gave the bar exam once a year. So I had to wait an entire year before I took it, but I used the year well. I met a lot of the politicians and judges, and they had me, I went to a very good law school. They had me ghostwrite opinions for them, and I made friends with them. And when I finally hung my shingle up, it was like I was a lawyer, and I was ready to take on clients. And my wife and myself got a wonderful gift from my father. He was a lawyer in Philadelphia, and he was embarrassed that his son moved to Las Vegas. That was his mindset. When they said, "Where's Oscar?" he'd say, "Phoenix." And that's the way he looked at this story. We used to go to a place called the Hacienda, which is where the Mandalay is now. Mm-hmm. And once a month, we'd have a nice steak dinner with the $25 that my dad would send us, and anything that was left over, she would play blackjack. I would stand behind her when she was playing blackjack because I knew they weren't building these beautiful places because people were beating them, that's for sure. And it was a different kind of town then, a much friendlier town, in my opinion. The dealers would talk to the customers. They talked to me, who was standing behind her. One day, the dealer who would deal to her called me, and he said, "Could you do a bankruptcy for me? I have a little bit of problems." I said, "I've never done one, but I had a little sign in my office where there's a fee, there's a remedy." So I learned how to do a bankruptcy real fast, and charged $250 for the costs and the whole works. And he was forever indebted. I was forever indebted. And then one day, and this is all the honest to God truth that I'm telling you, a phone call came into the pit at the Hacienda, and the guy on the other end of the line said, "Who's the best criminal lawyer in Las Vegas?" Well, nothing's changed in all the years since then. Nobody never says, "I don't know" in Las Vegas. Everybody knows everything in Las Vegas. And the pit boss answers the phone, and he says, "Who's the best criminal lawyer in Las Vegas?" And my dealer friend said, "I don't know whether he does any criminal work, but tell him to call Oscar." That's how it all started. The phone call came in from a reputed mobster from the East Coast, whose stepbrother had been arrested out here. And they hired me to do the case, and I got a phone call at home. "Come over to such and such an address. We have something for you." I said, then it's late at night, I said, "Well, you better get here. We have a case for you." So I'm being very brave. I woke my wife up and I said, "Sweetheart, will you take a ride with me?"
So what were your feelings like when when the mobsters reached out to you and said, "We need you as an attorney"?
Well, that was the first one.
What were your first thoughts, though?
Well, it was nourishing. I mean, these are people who had money. They had a great lifestyle. I learned that later on. I mean, every place I went with these guys, I had the front seat at the World Series game. I had first-class tickets on planes when I would fly from one place to another. They took me to the best restaurants to eat. They always had a wad of green. I mean, it was a lot of money they always carried on them. They had beautiful women on each arm. The women, even if in 125-degree heat, the women would wear mink coats. I mean, they were dripping with wealth, and they were all characters. It's, no characters anymore. They were characters, and many of them had physical deformities, and they had nicknames that fit the deformity. There was a fellow who was a thalidomide child, and he had a little arm, and they what do they call? Wingy.
Wingy. I knew Wingy.
Wingy from Caesars.
Right.
Right. Wingy had a little hand coming out here, and Lefty Rosenthal, who De Niro portrayed, he was left-handed, and Tony the Ant. I mean, everybody had some aura about them that you don't have today. Today, a lot of the big shots, and I'm a person who doesn't believe there is such a thing as a big shot. I haven't met one yet. I know a lot of people who think they're big shots, but I haven't met one yet. I wouldn't give you 2 cents for 99% of the people.
Now there are no big shots.
I don't think there were ever any big shots, but
There were never.
No, at least the alleged mobsters who were running these places, they didn't hold themselves out as big shots. They wanted low profiles.
What about the mobster Joe Pesci was playing in Casino?
Yeah, that's Tony Spilotro.
Wasn't he a loudmouth?
No, with me, see, no one believes these stories, but he treated me better than any other client. When I would leave town to try a case, and I wasn't representing him on that case, he would actually call my wife, who is probably the straightest lady I know, founded the first nonprofit, non-sectarian private school here. How is everything, Mrs. Goodman? Anything I could do for you or the children? Came into my office. We had a little lady, a little Filipino lady, who would serve coffee to our clients and treated her like she was the Queen of England. Never cursed around women. So I never saw this tawdry side of them. With me, he never asked me whether he could kill anybody.
When you saw the movie Casino, then you're seeing a whole nother side of these guys, right?
Oh, not only that, if I had known what I was doing and had seen Casino before I saw it, I would have been a lot richer. I would have owned islands in the Caribbean. I would have owned planes and boats. I was their lawyer, but I had no idea what these guys were allegedly skimming off millions and millions of dollars and sending it back east to the real hidden owners. These were all front people.
They're all out of Kansas City, right?
No, just the Tropicana.
Just the Tropicana.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I would sit in the back of the car with them, and they'd always have a chauffeur. They were good portrayals, and that's the way the world saw these people, but there was a different side. I did not know, for instance, and I'm their lawyer. I'm Lefty's lawyer and Tony's lawyer, okay? And this has happened more times than not, where I'm representing a guy from the Lucchese crime family and a guy from the Bonanno crime. I don't know the difference. I'm a lawyer just doing lawyer work, and they're hating each other. They want to kill each other. I had no idea about this. And for Tony to have had a relationship with Lefty's wife, I would have bet all 4 of my children, and we had some dogs in, and I throw the dogs in too, that it was impossible. I see these guys together. They like each other. This could never be happening until I saw the movie. And I said, they're making this part up. And then I've had FBI agents and IRS agents come to me and we used to follow them, and we know you knew it. Well, they know a lot of things that they don't know. And no, they were always, they needed me. I know that sounds funny and arrogant, but I was the only person around, really, who stood in the way of their going to prison or the electric chair.
There were no other attorneys in Vegas?
No one who would do that kind of business.
Why didn't they want to do it?
Well, Harry Claiborne was the best attorney. Ended up our federal judge. A brilliant marshaler of the facts and good sense of humor, related to the jury. Tried many, many cases with him. He wouldn't touch a mobster or an alleged mobster. He felt that it was demeaning. He felt that it would ruin his reputation.
You didn't feel that at all when you started?
I was proud of it. You kidding me?
Okay, why?
Why? They could go to any lawyer in the world if they wanted to. They had all the money in the world. And they chose me. I wore it like a badge.
So it represented you were the best at what you were doing?
In my mind.
Okay. And now how about defending these characters?
They're entitled to a defense, number one.
Okay.
Number two, you're a smart guy. And I'm not going to take your money from you. It'd be real easy to. But God forbid you go back to your home and you see your front door's busted open. And you walk in and you see your drawer has been rifled through. And you pick up the phone and you call 911 and you say, I was what?
Robbed.
You weren't robbed. You were burglarized. Big difference. Robbery is taking something by force or threat of force. Burglary is entering with the intent to commit a felony. And there's about a 15-year difference between the two offenses. So I never wanted my clients to tell me what they did. They don't know what they did. The only thing I ever wanted to hear from any client was if they were someplace else rather than where the indictment said they were at the time the offense took place.
So for you, the number one thing was the law. That's paramount.
That's the only thing. I wanted to make sure the Constitution was adhered to.
Yep.
And in every case, I found at least one FBI agent, because most of my cases were federal, at least make one lie, catch him in it, and shove it down his throat, and make the jury look at him like he was the criminal. It was almost like a nullification defense in every case, because they can't do their job right when it came to my clients. They wanted them so bad they tasted them. And I wasn't allowing them to get away with it. Prosecutorial misconduct was not permitted in my court.
So today, none of this exists here, huh?
Oh, I think it may be worse today.
How so?
I think there's more corruption today than maybe back then. The FBI stunk then, the FBI stinks now.
So more corruption in politicians and politics here?
Nothing changes. Nothing.
Well, there's no mob running the show, right?
No, there isn't. Over the years, the mob. I had a lot to do with the mob disappearing. Number one, when I became the mayor, they had nobody to represent them, so they left. That's a joke. Number two, every time I caught them doing something wrong, they corrected it the next time. So I was helping them refine their role. And it got harder and harder. And then with the wiretaps, they changed the law allowing court-authorized wiretaps using certain procedures. If they didn't follow the procedures, I would point it out. Next time they followed the procedures. So I made it difficult by winning these cases, by winning future cases, because they would correct what they had done wrong. I was not a good winner. The best thing I liked about my practice is when I won, and I lost a lot of cases. When I won, though, I made them eat it. I shoved it right down their throat. I crowed on the courthouse steps. I mean, they knew they had lost to Oscar Goodman. No two ways about it. That was my compensation, more than the money.
When you're talking about the tapping with the FBI,
yep.
Have citizens lost more rights on that front now versus then?
Oh, I think everybody, I think it's worse now than ever before. My wife got a bill, I think, from Verizon. Mm-hmm. Every phone call we've made from this home with the number and to whom for the past 2-3 years is on the bill. They know who we're calling, who's calling us. I mean, Big Brother is sitting on your lap. You don't know it, you don't feel him, but he is there. They know everything we're doing. We have no privacy whatsoever. And we have a government that really doesn't care whether we have it or not, as long as they have that information. All right, try not to be too late. Thank you. Love you.
How long have you been married?
It will be 61 years come June 6th.
All your successes in life, could you have done it without your...
No. She was my rudder. She kept me honest. She kept me straight. Oh, the temptations were so great when I came out here. And
what temptations, ladies?
You know that? No, not the ladies, but the money, the lifestyle. It was all Damon Runyon-esque. I mean, it was like living a storybook, and I was very susceptible to not having too much when I was growing up. Not that I was poor, but my parents were very conservative, very straight, and I never came close to living the life, so to speak, and here it was offered to me on a silver platter, and I wanted to grab it. And she said, "Don't become your client." When Tony Spilotro got killed, I found how much time I had on my hands with very little to do, because I had spent so much time representing him all over the country in these rather difficult, challenging cases. And one day I looked at myself in the mirror, and it's not a pretty face, I'll admit that, but I said, you know, I'm beginning really not to like myself. This isn't me. I go down to the office every day. I work 7 days a week because I like to work. It's play for me. And I was seeing how much I could charge people. And I was charging some very hefty fees. And I said, that's not me. And I took my family on a cruise in 1998. And we have a wonderful family. They love us, we love them. And I always would have little family meetings on important decisions. And I said to them, you know, I think I'd like to do something different. They said, what do you have in mind, Dad? I said, I think I'd like to run for mayor. Well, the kids voted 4-0 against me. I said, why? They said, Dad, you've got more baggage than the sky caps out at the airport. There's no way you could win. And I said, you know me, if I'm going to run, I'm going to win. And I had won. I had done every case you can. I represented the federal judge that I told you about before the U.S. Senate. I was the only person to that point in time to be a civilian on the Senate floor.
Sure.
Represented a fellow down in Texas charged with killing a federal judge. I won by 64%. They called it a landslide. I was disappointed. The next time I got 87%.
87%?
And the next time, yeah. And then the last time I fell off to 84%. But I'm looking for the 16% still.
Why do you think you were so popular? I'm
not sure I was popular. I'm a sort of a character. Practicing the kind of law I did, my constituents were juries. Being the mayor, my constituents were the people. They both want the same thing. They want the person who's talking to them to be honest. It's hard to believe, but I've never lied to anybody. I know it's impossible to believe that, but I called myself the George Washington of mayors. And the media was always a little mean to me. But the meaner they were, the more I bit them back. So I got the best of that. But there was one incident where I loved to read to kids. I was reading to a fourth grade class, and some kid was sent in by either some mean-spirited parent or some wise guy teacher, and they had a question. Mr. Mayor, if you were on a desert island in the middle of the ocean, what is the one thing you would want with you? Well, I guess the average person's going to say a Bible. I said a bottle of gin. Well, there's a maelstrom that took place. They went nuts. We demand his resignation. How can they be telling children to drink gin? And then they turned into, he wants showgirls on the island with gin. I was laughing at it, but it was that kind of thing. I got a kick out of it.
What other controversial proposals?
Oh, well, I
don't
don't think it's controversial. I did a lot of nice things. We have a very bad graffiti problem here. And I said if they catch the kid who painted my tortoise, we have tortoises out there on the rock tortoises, I want you to convict him and to bring him to my office, and we'll go on TV and I'll cut his thumb off on TV. Well, you might have thought that I was going to do something bad. The public loved it, and they brought the kid up. Now you know where we are, Mike? We can go in the back part here, right there where this cab is.
Okay. So you were joking when you said that?
No, I was using the satire.
Sure.
They caught the kid, and they brought him up to my office, and he was trembling. I didn't feel sorry for him at all. And I had a machete on my desk. I said, okay, you're not going to do any more graffitiing. Put your hand out. Well, the tears started going. He screamed and yelled and ranted and raved. He'll never do another graffiti, let's put it that way.
When did this open?
Oh, what was it, 10 years ago, the Mob Museum?
About 11 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. My wife opened it. It was my idea, but she opened it.
It was your idea?
Oh, yeah. Oh, did I get heat over this? Goodman's building a monument to himself. Goodman's glorifying his clients. There was a city councilman who said, this place isn't going to make 2 cents. I said, it's going to make a fortune. He said, I'll run through town naked if it makes any money. I said, I'd rather starve to death than to see you naked. This used to be the old post office and courthouse. I tried my first federal case in there. I made up my mind when I was elected I wasn't going to raise any buildings. I was going to keep them intact.
So that's a problem in Vegas, right? They're leveling a lot of the old history.
Yeah, but not in my town.
Not in your watch.
No. Oh, brutal.
Stay this brutal day.
Brutal. Brutal.
Take care.
Well, thank you.
The tourists love it. The Europeans
They love it. They love it. Oh my God, the English really love it. Get it on here.
What a beautiful courtroom.
Yeah, that's where I tried my first case.
Your first case was right here.
Yeah.
Average American, organized crime.
Here's my client, Meyer Lansky.
Main Street, USA. But then, Virgil Peterson of the Chicago Crime Commission shined a spotlight on the connection between criminals and politicians.
Organized crime cannot exist without an alliance between those who control the brackets and those in political authority.
I'd like you to see the one thing that I'm most proud of at the end here. They made a movie about my life, documentary, and they put an FBI agent in the desert with me, unrehearsed.
FBI agent with you. That's
Yeah.
him right there.
People would ask me over the years, how can you represent somebody you know is guilty? That's not the defense lawyer's obligation or responsibility. The determination of guilt or innocence or guilt or not guilt is up to the jury of 12 of the defendant's peers.
That's the number one question you get, right?
That would be and say, you know I killed somebody? What do you got? Something wrong with your fundamental mentality. You don't know what makes this country great, okay? I'm trying to protect people would like to get people like you.
You want to make evil good, good people. You want to make light dark and dark light.
No, but I want the truth. I want the truth.
So this guy, you can't stand it.
That's Palaccio here. This is a fella that Pesci portrayed. He used to call this the gelt bag. The gelt meaning money in Yiddish. And it would leave empty and it would come back full of green.
Is that yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that was yours.
Yeah. I ate their heart out. Now this is pretty nice. This is part of a ship that was used to bring in whiskey from Canada down the Atlantic. You don't figure to see that in a mob museum.
I have never been down to this.
Oh, this is great. This meeting wasn't that bad.
What's your go-to drink, Oscar? Gin,
Bombay Sapphire.
Bombay Sapphire Martini?
No, just Bombay Sapphire.
Oh, okay, straight
And
up.
more Bombay Sapphire.
And more.
And a jalapeno. And the jalapeno is very important because from here to here, it's as mellow as could be. And I'm not, it's cruel to do this to somebody who doesn't drink, but from here to here, you lose all sense of touch and feel and smell. So you got to be very careful. The cowboy sheriff that I was telling you about, a big guy. Ralph is about 6'5", would you say?
Yeah, 6'4", 6'5".
And just solid muscle. In his older years, he became ill. And we had our battle with each other. But like I think gentlemen do, after the fight is over, you make up. And we became fast friends. So he came down to the restaurant years later, and he says, everybody's talking about that drink of yours. He was a cowboy. He spoke like a cowboy. I said, it's a good drink, Sheriff. He said, I'm going to have one. I said, no, you're not. He said, yes, I am. I said, no, you're not. I hear that you're not as well as I'd like you to be, and you should not be drinking. He says, I'm drinking. So he disappears, and this big galoot, he ends up on the floor. Had a couple of hits of this, and he was flat out on the floor. They had to carry him to his
In
car.
his defense, he was Mormon.
Well, he didn't care. Hi, Hannah. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
This is Peter.
How you doing, Hannah?
And the
Hi.
senator.
Nice to meet you. Yes,
So you like the museum here, huh?
we do. We've lived in Ohio forever, but we plan on moving here eventually.
Good for you. It's a good place to live.
Yeah, we love it.
A little hot, but they have plenty of this to cool you off.
Yeah, I love the jalapeno.
I do too.
Can I have my picture with you?
You may, of course.
Okay.
Ready to.
Thank you.
Okay.
It was so nice to
Thanks.
meet you.
Thanks for coming up.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
How great is that, though?
I love it. When I was actively practicing, I couldn't talk to anybody because everybody I talked to was wired.
Oh, Oh, so it's like bottled up inside of you.
Yeah, and then when I became the mayor, it was wonderful. I opened my door, I talked to everybody, but when I was actively practicing, guys were sent up to my office to record conversations with me and ended up in ladies' rooms with bullets in their head. Look at this, here it is, Thursday afternoon. It's not 3 o'clock yet, is it?
Yeah, it's 3:07.
Okay, well, it's not a bad crowd on a hot day.
Oh, yeah. Where do you see Vegas going? Like, what do you see as its future? You've seen a lot of different cycles here.
I think the only thing that is going to stop us will be imagination. They always say we reinvent ourselves. It's not really that. There are new iterations, new projects that are different than the one that preceded it. And the people who have the guts to build these things really deserve a lot of credit, because I don't know whether I would have the guts to put in hundreds of millions of dollars to build a project when I know right down the street there's going to be a bigger and better and more expensive project. But there's a certain mentality that does that. So as long as that mentality is out there and it doesn't seem to dissipate, I think we'll keep on growing. Good being here. Thank you. I'm going to hold on to this.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
A little harder than it used to be, huh?
Yeah. This is our Smith Center for Performing Arts.
Oh, it's
It's a wonderful center. And of course, our wonderful taxpayers here cursed me for using taxpayer money to have them build it. And then when they had the opening night, all those who cursed me said, "Boy, Mayor, thank you so much for building this." I say, go home. Don't even bother me, you misanthropes. The only thing I like is I always imagined a misanthrope, which is a hater, married to another misanthrope, and they wake up in the morning, they try to hate each other, and I love looking at them hating each other. I love it.
This is downtown, technically,
This is downtown.
right?
There's a symphony
So
park.
this really came around. I was here 15 years ago.
Yeah,
And it didn't
nothing
look
was
like
here.
Here,
There was nothing. Okay.
There are real bells in the tower because my wife and I donated one.
Yeah, it's
So
really
you
wonderful.
were behind this too, Mike.
Yeah.
We passed a tax
Yep.
that goes to them, and it's a tax on rental cars. And
Yeah.
so there's a little piece of the rental car tax that goes to this.
So every
This-
tourist that comes to town who's renting a car, whomever.
Right.
And do you see that little bust over there? It's the bust of the second greatest mayor of Las Vegas. See him?
There we go. Oscar Goodman. No spray paint.
He's the man.
You stand out in the bushes, Oscar.
Every
ready to
night.
chop fingers.
But look at this, isn't this nice?
Ah, it's
They have a
beautiful.
lot of weddings here and everything, and then
Oh yeah, and nice weddings.
courtyard and all that.
And this is the Discovery Museum for Children.
Children's Discovery
that's
Museum.
great.
This is beautiful.
It's a real city now.
What's that building over there? Is that an apartment tower? No, this one
and
with
the kid who, it's a kid. When I was first elected, he came up to my office. He was wearing Bermuda shorts and go-aheads. And I said, "This is the way you come into the mayor's office dressed like that? I'm going to throw you right out the window." He says, "But I believe in what you're doing." It was a true story. Sam Cherry. I said, "What do you believe in?" He says, "I believe that your downtown can really be made into something special." I said, "And what are you going to do about it?" He says, "I'm going to build the first co-op." I said, "You do that, I'll apologize to you." Yeah, he's built 3 of them. Headline, Mayor wants to send homeless to prison. That was the end of it.
So your solution to homelessness is what?
To take a building like that and do the same thing you said.
Go to cheaper land, you build all the facilities,
Right.
medical,
Right,
job
that-
training,
yes.
psychiatric
Yes,
training,
yes,
housing.
Yes.
And then if someone can get through to a better place, they come back to society in
Exactly.
a better way. Right.
That's the only way to do it.
Because I don't understand, but there's always the argument of freedom, personal freedom, right?
No,
So
there
it's
isn't.
someone's personal freedom
No,
to do
they
drugs
don't
on
know
the
the
street.
difference. They don't know whether they're
Okay.
free. It's like they want to give these
Yeah.
homes for. They wouldn't know how to turn on a stove. These people. And during Christmas, they give them frozen turkeys. What are they going to do with a frozen turkey? Guys walking along the street, pushing a supermarket cart with nothing in it except his.
I'm surprised the ADA hasn't come out and pushed some lawsuits in cities like Portland and San Francisco. If a
Well-
wheelchair can't get down the sidewalk because of tents,
Here's what that whole concept, the attorneys will slap lawsuits on you.
ACLU.
Yeah, ACLU, that's what.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will say you're making these people do these things.
Yep.
You can't make them.
You can't touch them. That's the
Right.
hard thing.
That's-
You're not allowed to touch them to help them. You can't.
That's the
You
problem.
can't take them by the hand and lead them into Catholic charities right across the street.
Yeah, I don't know what's compassionate about letting someone junk out with needles in their arms on the side of the street.
Right.
There's no-
I don't see it.
But you're not nearly as bad as a lot of places, I gotta say.
Well, I don't want to
I'm all-
become that.
I'm all over the country.
I don't
right
want to
now.
become that. You know, when I was first elected, we went down to Coronado, and I said to Carolyn, my wife, I said, sweetheart, I want to go into the police station here. They have a very pretty police station. And she said, why? I said, I got a couple questions I want to ask the cops. So I went in there and I said, I'm Oscar Goodman. I'm the newly elected mayor of Las Vegas. I've got a couple of questions. Here, I come down to Coronado. I've got a nice little place here and walk the streets. Don't see any homeless. I said, how do you do it? He says, we have very special treatment. Which means they take them like that and take them over the bridge and dump them in San Diego.
Do you want to do that special treatment here?
Yeah,
Put 'em in
absolutely.
Carson City?
No, I want to put them in that place that you're talking about, that building where they're going to be shepherded back into society.
All right, guys, what an interesting day. I want to thank all the people involved to made that happen. So Mike obviously got us to Oscar, but one of my followers, Bob, knew Mike. And so that's how it works sometimes. What a fortunate opportunity to get that time with Oscar to hear what he had to say. And like all my videos, I never want to tell you how to think about a topic or a situation, but to understand the point of view of someone just by listening to them. Agree or disagree, whether that might be, doesn't matter. But that's how we understand where people are coming from. So thanks for coming along on that video, on that journey, and we'll see you in the next one.